Hello everyone. A moment related to the heavyweight division. This is about Moses Itauma. Oleksandr Usyk recently said that he doesn't want to fight him, claiming he doesn't want to break a young guy. And here Itauma responds calmly, but with an undertone. He says, "Let's be honest, everyone says in the media what they need to say." Then he raises an interesting question. Would Usyk be able to knock out Dillian Whyte in 1 minute? Let me remind you, Itauma himself did it very quickly. At the same time, he emphasizes that he respects Usyk, but doesn't believe that Usyk would break him, and thinks that Usyk's team actually sees things differently from what is said in interviews. And this is where it gets really interesting. Is this just image protection for Usyk, or is he actually avoiding a dangerous young opponent? There's also another storyline around Itauma. Promoter Al Siesta is pushing for a fight between Murat Gassiev and Itauma for the WBA regular title. He states directly, the fight with Franklin is the main test for Moses right now. In his opinion, the win over Whyte isn't a truth because Whyte is already on the decline. But Franklin is a solid, competent opponent. If Moses wins impressively, then we will finally understand his real level. In that case, a fight with Gassiev becomes the logical next step. Moreover, Siesta claims that Gassiev is ready to fight anyone, and options are even being considered with other notable heavyweights, including Michael Hunter. And let me remind you, Gassiev currently holds the WBA regular title, which he took from the 44-year-old Kubrat Pulev. The organization, by the way, also wants Murat to fight Itauma. Oleksandr Usyk vs Rico Verhoeven is scheduled for May 23rd in Egypt. And here comes the opinion of someone who truly understands the game, Alistair Overeem. He says he likes the very idea of Verhoeven stepping into boxing and immediately challenging the best. No tune-up fights, no entry, straight to the top level. But the main question is, what level is Rico at in boxing right now? Overeem emphasizes that in kickboxing, Verhoeven hasn't had serious problems for years. He was basically fighting on cruise control. No one could truly test him. And now, this is exactly the kind of situation where he will be genuinely tested. At the same time, Overeem doesn't write him off. He says Verhoeven has the size, the physical advantages, and a team that will definitely prepare a strategy for Usyk. And most interestingly, he believes Rico will be able to land shots thanks to his tempo, sense of rhythm, and combinations. But if we're being honest about the chances, no surprises here. According to Overeem, it's not 50-50, it's more like 80-20 in favor of Oleksandr Usyk. And since we've started with Usyk, let's continue because there's now a whole chain of potential fights forming around him. A route has already been outlined. First Verhoeven, and then the winner of the fight between Fabio Wardley and Daniel Dubois, which will take place on May 9th. Wardley himself has an interesting stance. On one hand, he's already being mentioned in discussions about a fight with Usyk, but he treats it very calmly and even skeptically. He says, "Yeah, it's nice to be part of these conversations, but in boxing everything changes too fast." He recalls that similar talk happened before other fights, but things ended up playing out differently. So he's not building any illusions. First, he has to get past Dubois and then see what happens next. And by the way, the Wardley vs Dubois fight itself raises a lot of questions. Jermaine Franklin, who will soon face Moses Itauma, says it's very hard to predict a winner here. He highlights Wardley's bravery and his ability to come back in fights, but also stresses that against Dubois you have to box smart and control the fight on points. As for another bout, Deontay Wilder vs Derek Chisora, scheduled for April 4th in London, Franklin calls it a 50-50 fight. In his view, the winner will be the one who is more accurate and lands the heavier shots. Both are punchers, both are dangerous. This is the kind of fight that can be decided by a single punch. Another interesting heavyweight matchup is Tony Yoka vs Lawrence Okolie. Yoka openly says that Okolie's style is awkward and sticky, but in cruiserweight he relied heavily on his size. According to Yoka, things will be different in heavyweight. He believes he is bigger, stronger, and more technical, and that Okolie won't be able to overpower him or impose his style. Moreover, Yoka is already saying that he knows he will win, and even jokes that he's been smiling for the past 10 days straight. Now let's shift weight classes a bit, because there's also some very interesting movement in the middleweight and super welterweight divisions. Jermall Charlo, a former WBC champion who hasn't fought for 2 years due to depression and, according to rumors, alcohol-related issues, is in for a fight with Reséndiz. The fight is being discussed for the WBA title at super middleweight. According to insider Mike Coppinger, they are targeting May 2nd in Las Vegas as part of the PPV undercard for David Benavidez versus Gilberto Ramirez. There's an interesting backstory here. All this time, the World Boxing Council didn't strip Charlo of his belt. Mauricio Suleiman supported him despite his inactivity, but eventually changed course when instead of Jermall, his brother Jermall Charlo stepped in to fight Saul Alvarez. Now Charlo is returning in a new weight class, where he has had 2 fights so far, wins over Jose Benavidez Jr. and Thomas Lamana. But his potential opponent is no easy task. Reséndiz pulled off a major upset last year, taking the interim WBA title from Caleb Plant and then becoming the full champion. So the big question is, after such a long layoff, is Charlo ready to come back and immediately win a title? And let's keep going in the welterweight division. Oscar de la Hoya is actively pushing for a rematch between Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. As a reminder, their first fight in April 2024 ended with a win for Garcia. He knocked Haney down 3 times and won on points, but the result was later overturned due to Ryan's positive doping test. Now both are world champions at welterweight, and under strict drug testing conditions, Haney is ready for the rematch. De la Hoya says Devin deserves this fight, especially after a strong performance against Brian Norman Jr. But Garcia, according to him, has come back even stronger, particularly after his win over Mario Barrios, who entered that fight as a world champion. And this is where the real intrigue lies. Can Haney get his revenge, or will Garcia break him down again? Speaking of Haney, he also commented on a potential fight between Shakur Stevenson and Raymond Muratalla. Stevenson, as a reminder, might return to lightweight to fight for the ring title, and Muratalla could be his opponent. Haney says Muratalla can genuinely give him a tough fight. He was impressed with his performance against Andy Cruz. Yes, the fight was close on the scorecards, but Muratalla looked very confident and even dominated at times. Haney said, "I knew he was good but not that good, and now believes his style could cause real problems for Stevenson." However, there's another opinion, this time from Mike Tyson. As usual, he doesn't hold back. He calls Stevenson a master of his craft, but questions how seriously he currently takes boxing. Tyson adds that at his best, Stevenson was nearly unbeatable. But he also says there's one man who could defeat him, Gervonta Davis, describing him as a force of nature. In Tyson's own blunt words, he's an absolute beast. And finally, one more note. Jaron Ennis, DAZN, really wanted to arrange a fight with Virgil Ortiz Jr., but it didn't happen due to Ortiz's contractual issues with Golden Boy Promotions and a possible legal dispute. As a result, Ennis' team has shifted focus to another option, a fight with the undefeated WBA and WBO champion Xander Zayas. This was reported by insider Chris Mannix. This is an important moment because Ennis and his promoter Eddie Hearn are often criticized for their choice of opponents. Now they want to make a truly serious and meaningful fight. So this could turn into a very compelling matchup as well. That's all for now, friends. This was Alexander Petrov. Thank you very much for watching and see you in the next episode.